were coming near to listen to Jesus. And the Pharisees and the scribes, they were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So Jesus told them a parable. "Which one of you, having 100 sheep and losing one of them, doesn't leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after that one that is lost until he finds it? When he's found it, he lays it on his shoulders and rejoices. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and his neighbors, saying to them, 'Rejoice with me, for I've found my sheep that was lost.' Just so, I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who need no repentance. Or what woman having 10 silver coins, if she loses one of them, does not light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? When she's found it, she calls together her friends and her neighbors, saying, 'Rejoice with me, for I found the coin that I lost.' Just so, I tell you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents." The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of the Lord lives forever. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Tax collectors, sinners, coming near to Jesus to listen to him. Poor tax collectors. They get singled out a lot, don't they? Tax collectors, the IRS, the Indiana Department of Revenue, and sinners. Sinners of all kinds, and tax collectors. Yeah, that's pretty rough to be in your own category of sinner, right? In that time and place, the tax collectors, they were known for getting you for more than you owe. As if it wasn't hard enough to pay what Rome was already charging in taxes, then the tax collectors, after you've been hit and had to pay the government, the tax collectors come and hit you while you're down, make you pay some more. Not the most popular people. Let's say, not the kind of person you want your daughter going out with. Tax collectors and sinners, the lost. The Pharisees and scribes see Jesus welcoming these tax collectors and sinners, and they start grumbling. They are not happy about what he is doing. The Pharisees and scribes, they were grumbling over it. It was grumbling like I was grumbling yesterday. You know, we had the Love Inc. 5K yesterday, and then we had to get there early because Barry and the family were helping with sound, and Seth was playing guitar, Teresa was singing. And so, we have to get there early to set up the equipment. I'm grumbling about, it's like, I don't want to be there that early. It's 6:30, grumbling, right? Well, the Pharisees and, the Pharisees and scribes, they were grumbling over sinners. Jesus welcoming those sinners. Jesus eating at the same table with those sinners. Jesus sharing a meal with those sinners. They're unclean. Look at what Jesus is doing. Some rabbi eating with tax collectors and sinners, grumbling. And Jesus notices them grumbling, and he's like, you know what? Let me help you understand these people a little bit more. He begins with the lost sheep. He wanders off. Poor little sheep wanders off. And that shepherd leaves the 99 other sheep behind in the wilderness just to find that one lost sheep. When the shepherd finds it, he can breathe again. He lays that sheep on his shoulders and he rejoices. He doesn't yell at that sheep for leaving and being gone so long. He's just happy that he found it. The shepherd is overwhelmed with joy. He rejoices. He calls his friends and neighbors to come celebrate. Notice he didn't call fellow shepherds. He didn't call brothers and sisters. It's not like this was a lesson specifically about the church and us, the church, celebrating together. This is a lesson about everybody. This shepherd invites everybody, friends and neighbors alike. Everybody, come celebrate with me. It's time for a party. Next, Jesus tells of the lost coin. A woman loses one of her 10 coins. She lights a lamp. She sweeps the house until she finds it. And she is looking for it. You cannot mess with a woman's money. All right? She's already figured out how the family is going to eat with those 10 silver coins. Now, 10 silver coins, that's 1/3 of a day's pay for a shepherd. All right, shepherds didn't get paid much. Divide that in 3, and you've got what this woman had to her name. That's very, very little money. She's already been hit by Rome's taxes, and then again by the tax collectors. Don't even think she's going to let one of those coins just slip away. Don't even think she's going to let one of those coins be lost. Every coin is critical. And when she does find it, she is overwhelmed with joy. She can breathe again. And then, all excited, she starts digging around in her purse to find her cell phone so she can call her friends and her neighbors. Not just her household and her loved ones, but everybody to come and rejoice with her because she found that coin. It's time for a party. You ever walk into a gigantic parking lot only to realize you don't remember where you parked? Can't find it. Can't find it for the life of you. Searching around, you're freaking out. And then when you finally find the car in that huge parking lot, you're so relieved. Your heart is beating normal again. Your mind's not scrambling about whether to call the police about it being stolen or call a tow company about if it's in the lot or what happened. You can breathe again. A sense of peace rushes over you when you find your car. Was it not that dramatic for you? Well, it was that dramatic for the third parable that Jesus tells in his lesson today, the prodigal son story. It was absolutely that dramatic. Where the wild child demands his share of the inheritance, his heartbroken father reluctantly gives him his share of the inheritance and blesses him. When that prodigal son finally comes home broken, ready to make things right, his father is overwhelmed with joy just to see his son again, and he celebrates his son being found. The party starts immediately. This boy's otherwise good brother, though, gets jealous and then gets corrected by their father because he's out of line, because this is time for a party. The sheep and the coins are a build-up to the prodigal son. You've got the lost sheep where the shepherd is God and the person is the sheep, or the woman where the woman is God and the coin is the person. And then all this builds up to where the father is God and the prodigal son is the person coming home. And then there's a third character in the story there, which is important to include because that's the Pharisees and the scribes who are not very happy about the sinner being welcomed home. In that third parable, Jesus is basically saying, okay, let's bring this home. Forget a sheep or a coin. Forget, more possessions like that. It's when your son or your daughter is lost. How do you feel? How overwhelmed with joy are you once they've been found? That right there, that is why I'm eating with tax collectors and sinners. That's why I'm welcoming every one of them, because of how you feel about your son or daughter who'd been lost coming back home. The joy is in the repentance. In repentance, there is joy. We always think about repentance as saying, oh, we have these visions of the people in medieval times, of the old monks with their whipping things, walking around, or at least I've seen it on Monty Python a few times, where they're walking around whipping themselves like that's repentance. And then we lose the fact that in repentance, there is this great, great joy. Repentance is so much more than just saying you're sorry. It's more than feeling bad about what you did. It's more than just admitting that you did wrong. Repentance involves changing your behavior. Repentance is stopping the wrong you were doing and doing right instead. Repenting is making a 180-degree turn from the wrong you were doing and instead turning toward what is right. It means everything for the person that you have wronged. It means everything for the persons whose feelings have been hurt because things are being made right. Have you ever heard of a Michigan left? No? Maybe? Kind of sounds familiar. Well, going up to Michigan, I'm starting to get used to them. It's like you really have to plan ahead for them. They're not really my forte, but as you see in the picture, basically what a Michigan left is where you go straight through the intersection, then you do a U-turn, and then you turn right, and then that's how you turn left, right? They actually have those at the one at Allisonville and 96th Street now, and it actually helped a lot. It's weird, but it helped. You have to go straight through the intersection, turn around, do a U-turn, do your turn, and then you turn right, and that's your left. In Michigan, big time in Detroit, they're everywhere. Every intersection that has a divided highway where there's like grass or something in the middle, there's one of those kind of turns. Every single one. And I was talking to Megan about this passage today and about repentance, and it came to her. I'll tell you what, it's like she just started digging and she struck gold right away. I don't know how she does it, but she said, Michigan left. I was like, OMG. That is exactly what it is. Repentance is a Michigan left. You turn around and you go right. And this week in the office, I randomly hear Brenda holler around from the wall. Say, have you ever heard of a Michigan left? I was like, OMG. How did she know to ask me about that? Well, there's one coming on its way to the intersection at 40 and 600 East. So we are going to get a little more familiar with them here. So this is a little confusing. They're calling it both a Michigan left or a J-turn because there's both here. So basically when you're going, the J-turn is what allows you to turn left. Right? And it kind of looks like a J. All right? So that's why it's got both, Michigan left and a J-turn. Now, the Michigan left involves the turning around and going right. But this kind is actually the other kind of the Michigan left. There's two kinds, which I was kind of ignoring today. But it's where you turn right and then you turn around. So you can either turn around and go right or turn right, then turn around. But the other one where you go right and turn around, that does not work nearly as well as a metaphor, so I'm just trying to ignore that one. A metaphor only goes so far, right? So to make it work, you kind of have to go in reverse if you're looking at that one, because you want to turn around first and then go right. Well, whatever, you know what I mean. All right, so it's a come to Jesus moment, what repentance is. When a sinner, when a tax collector, and a sinner of truly any kind stops doing whatever he or she is doing, comes to Jesus, physically comes to Jesus, spiritually comes to Jesus, and listens, actually listens to the words he's saying, honestly listening, wanting to learn, that sinner has already turned around and gone right. That in itself is a reason to celebrate them just coming to the table to listen to Jesus, which stands in contrast to the Pharisees and scribes and how they were viewing this. They didn't see that as a reason to celebrate, as them already having repented. They saw them as unclean. They haven't been made clean yet. We can't eat with them. They're off limits. They were standing in judgment over tax collectors and sinners. Meanwhile, they were also, in fact, kind of lost in their own way. They were judging and condemning the people who needed to be saved. They were the brother in the prodigal son passage who was good, who never got lost, but he was standing in judgment over the people who were coming back. And so the Pharisees and the scribes needed to be corrected by the Lord. Because this is a party for everyone. If one sinner coming to Jesus, and one sinner coming to Jesus, there is more joy in heaven than 99 who didn't have to worry about being found in the first place, who never got lost. It could be a room full of people who graduated high school, right? Yet there's a lot more joy and celebration over the one person, the young lady, the young man who just graduated high school. A lot more joy over that one person. There's no need to be jealous or judgmental or condemn anybody about that person's celebration. No, when the person comes to the Lord, it is a celebration, one that we don't typically make a big enough deal of. But how much greater is the joy and celebration over that very person up in heaven. See the contrast in this story. The powers in the contrast between God's lament that we read in Jeremiah. Remember that difficult passage in Jeremiah, uncomfortable. Picture that up against the joy in heaven over one sinner who repents. You could hear God grieving in Jeremiah's passage. The conduct of my poor people. My people are stupid. They give me no heed. They're foolish children. They're not intelligent. They're clever at doing wrong, but unable to do right. You can feel God's sorrow in the loss of these people. And then here in this passage, Jesus reminds us, yes, but even still, God's love is pursuing us. God is the shepherd. God is the woman. God is the Father who is overwhelmed with joy once we've been found. From the darkest places of sorrow to the most brilliant light of the angels rejoicing, God can finally breathe again. Tax collectors aren't the only sinners lost out there in need of finding. We sinners, we come in all colors and creeds and shapes and sizes. May we all be found, and let everyone be invited to the party.